guys, I'm Artemisi,
I'm Mage,
and we are.
the Gunter sisters.
So, we're making this channel so that we can review and talk about books, movies, video games, and basically anything else mentioned in the book Ready Player One
We'll also be talking about the book Ready Player One
today
today, and yeah,
and next time.
and the time after that. So there's 3 parts.
Yes.
Hooray! Okay.
Got the intro done.
Yeah. The world is 2044, and the world has basically gone to shit, and yeah.
So, as the world is falling to shit, this video game maker, James Halliday, this video game maker, James Halliday, basically invents the new internet. It's a new type of virtual reality that everyone on the face of the earth uses to communicate, pay for things, buy property, sell things, and the currency inside the Oasis, which is the virtual reality, is like worth more than the dollar or the euro.
Any currency in real, actual reality.
And so when this video game maker, James Halliday, dies, he posts something on his blog, and it's his last will and testament, which turns out to be Anarch's invitation, which is
an invitation to play this game that's inside the Oasis, obviously. It's to find an Easter egg in which he placed, no one knows where except for him, into the Oasis. And when they find this Easter egg, they will be left all of his riches and his holding share in GSS, which is
Gregarious Simulation Systems.
Which he and his partner Ogden Morrow created together and it changed after they made the Oasis, but video games basically.
And so Ogden Morrow says continuously that the contest is essentially just to have so that James Halliday can share all of the things that he likes with the world so that other people will like them too.
And his biggest obsession in the world is 80s culture. So back to what we said earlier, the reviewing of books, video games, and movies, TV shows, etc. Most of them will be 80s related.
So things like Joust, Adventure, Pac-Man, basically old coin-op games, 80s movies, Highlander, Lady Hawk,
Heathers.
I have the shirt, by the way.
Ready
And
Player
so, basically in the intro, it's just the main character, Parzival, or Wade Owen Watts, saying that he's the one to find the first key and the first gate. And it just shows how he finds the first few things. And for the first part, which is not part 1, it's level 1, it's just kind of Parzival's intro to the story and how he finds the first key.
and background information in his life and of the current world that he's in at the moment. Yeah. All right. And yeah. What else? The review comes
but
now.
Are.
So, in this world in which everyone is plugged into virtual reality constantly, there are upsides and downsides, obviously, to that. Some of the pros are education is practically free. Actually, the Oasis only costs 25 cents to join for the first time. And if you go to school in the Oasis, you get a free console and haptic gloves and a visor. So education is basically free for anyone, and they have libraries that are free, information free. But the downsides
are basically no one spends their time outside, and the fact that the world has gone to shit, now everybody wants to spend their time inside the Oasis. So no one is even worried about trying to make the outside world better just because they're focused on the Oasis that is the Oasis to be happy there instead of fixing the dying world on the outside.
It's not exactly easy to fix the dying world because, you know, there's oil crisis and
Hunger crisis.
Yeah, everyone's hungry. There's not a lot you can actually do with the world unless you have billions and billions of dollars to spend on making an attempt to fix it.
But not saying that the Oasis is bad in any way, which comes to the second point of IOI, which is the bad group in this book, and they basically have the only purpose of trying to find the egg first so that they can have the rights to all the billions of dollars in order to make and control the Oasis and make it not free and make it censored and a lot of things that you don't want them to have control of.
And making this utopia of the Oasis, not of the actual world that we're living in, obviously, into a dystopian environment.
Yeah, so the hunt it's been happening for a while, and for 5 years since the release of Anarch's Invitation, no one has found anything of the first clue. And
okay, so do you want to say, excuse me.
3 hidden keys open 3 secret gates, why in the air?
3 hidden keys open 3 secret gates, wherein the errant will be tested for worthy traits, and those with the skill to survive these traits will reach the end, where the prize awaits. So there's 3 keys, which are the
Copper, jade, and crystal key.
copper, jade, and crystal.
I did. Anyway,
Yeah,
we
she
tried.
tried.
I tried.
Which open the 3 gates, which are the copper, jade, and crystal gates. And if you open all the gates, supposedly, you get all of the treasures that Halliday left for you. Supposedly.
He has lots of lawyers in place to ensure that no one else can get them secretly, but
Slight problems in that. Like, the Sixers. Let's talk about the Sixers.
that's why I don't want
Well, yeah, but then you stopped talking about IOI. So, IOI created an oology department, which oology was originally a term for the scientific study of birds or eggs, which is
fun Easter
right,
eggs.
yep.
Fine.
They're trying to be clever. But so all the employees that work for the oology department have 6 digits as their avatar names, and they all start with 6, so they are called the Sixers, or as Gunters, who are the people who aren't looking for the egg for corporation, like a bunch of assholes. They call them the Suxers. And there's actually a tournament every year that they do called 86 Suxers, and big Gunter clans try and kill as many Suxers as they possibly can, basically.
So, in the first part, it kind of discusses how the Sixers are cheating, which there are no rules in place to find the egg. There are no rules in place to find the egg, but they try their best to cheat as much as possible, and because there's no honor and there's no like actual respect for the game to them, so they'll find like the top historians of the 80s, close friends of Halliday, like the best video game players, the professionals of everything, to try to code things.
And also pay them off to make an attempt to find the keys, gates, and the egg.
Basically cheaters.
Yeah, actually, it says this in the first part of the book that lots of the employees for the oology department when things get rough, they kind of just are able to pass it on to another player, and the player that has more skills in that area does it for them. Like they can control their haptic gloves and etc. and their avatars in the Oasis.
And it's a lot like joining the military, because even if you're not finding clues necessarily, you're still employed for them, and they'll provide you basic food, rations, and money, and clothes, and shelter. And it's like joining the military for this new age.
And also all the Sixers avatars are exactly the same. That's a very easy way to
Tell them apart.
identify them from other avatars in the Oasis.
They're all guys.
Yes, they're all males with like brown hair.
Brown hair, brown
eyes.
and bulking.
Yeah, very big, and they're all wearing navy blue suits, and they suck. Yeah. So overall, first part is pretty amazing.
A lot is covered in the first
A
part.
lot
It's
of
very
information is
important.
there. I mean, you can look up a synopsis of it anywhere, but
Don't take our synopsis.
No.
It's not a very nice, thorough synopsis
No,
of the first part.
no, we kind of skimmed a bit. We should really talk more about Wade, but
Yeah. So Wade Owen Watts,
main character.
yeah,
Percival.
he grows up in Oklahoma, and his dad died when he was little, and his mom was a sex telephone operator.
Yeah, and a waitress.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like now how we are used to phones and the internet and laptops, and that's normal for us, and we grew up with that, and if you take that away, we're like, what the fuck? And for when Wade was born, he was born in 2024, and that's when the Oasis was already there. So he used the Oasis like education to learn how to talk, get self-esteem, read, write, learn math. He used that to learn, and you have complete access to books, movies, anything, so that's what he used it for.
There's also interactive kids TV shows like Sesame Street, Muppet Show, all those kinds of things that actually help you learn things.
Yeah, and
Like we have now.
his mom,
OD'd.
Yeah.
When he was like 9?
Yeah.
9. And then he had to move in with his aunt in a trailer park.
But trailer parks at this time are not just regular trailer parks, they're called the stacks, because they'll stack trailer home on top of each other to create stories, and then they'll just have like a main base and ladders just to
Mostly metal structures just to hold it up to make sure they don't fall. A lot of stacks go up to like 20 trailers put on top of each other, which obviously is a safety hazard, and they constantly fall. There's also like meth labs in the trailers that
create
make-
explosions,
yeah.
and it's kind of like the roughest part of Oklahoma, I'm assuming.
Well, all the trailer parks are surrounding the cities, the big cities that still have power and stuff, because a lot of places, especially in America, have constant blackouts and don't have any power anymore because of an economic crisis, obviously, and lack of energy.
So when Anarch's Invitation comes out, that's when Parzival is kind of like, this is what I need to do with my life. And he doesn't have any friends, he doesn't really care about his aunt or anything, she doesn't care about him either. And that's when he kind of just devotes his life to trying to find the egg. And that's what a lot of people do, because you don't have any other option at that time. And you're going to get all of this money just to study things from the 80s. So of course the 80s come back into style. And
Everyone's basically obsessed. You see all the 80s fashion coming back, and it's really weird for especially people that were actually alive in the 80s. They kind of were like, this is
like
terrible.
my childhood.
Yeah.
But so
yeah.
Wade goes to online school.
Oh, he was originally in a public school before that, before Anorak's Invitation came out, and he hated it. He's overweight. He has acne. He's very socially awkward, and he hated being around people because he was so awkward. So when he had the option to leave school and be in the Oasis constantly, he automatically jumped on it.
You need like a certain GPA and stuff, but it's like a low GPA. It's a good idea. And I mean, we have online schools now, so I mean, we're pretty close to that, but it's on the Oasis. So imagine like virtual reality school, but you can mute people and you can block people
and also there's classrooms that are interactive, like you can go back in time and see Egypt when it was when the pyramids were being created, and you can do a bunch of cool stuff.
If you're studying space, you can go be on Mars and learn about Mars. So I mean, it's good for education wise too. And so when you join the online school on the planet Ludus, because Oasis is made out of millions of planets, but the one planet that has education is called Ludus. There's lots of copies of it, but it's all Ludus and it's all the same. It's the same as that copy for everything. And so when you join the school, they have to have your actual name and your birthday and the gender of your human self, and you have to use your real name when you're on school. So Wade is the third person named Wade at the school, so his name is Wade3. But then when you're off school grounds, it can change back to your gamer tag, which his is Parzival
with a Z. If you didn't know, Parzival is one of the knights at the Round Table who found the Holy Grail. Just to let you know.
And he has a best friend named H.
Right. H is his best friend. He's actually pretty famous. He is very good in PvP combat. And what else?
He just does a lot of paid combat things, and he's incredibly famous, and he holds
a chat room.
But it's not a chat room like now.
Right. The chat room that he hosts is you're basically transported when you enter the chat room into not a different server, but like a different room. Technically, you're the same in the same place, but not. They explain it better in the book, obviously.
It's called the basement.
Yes, it's the basement, and it's actually a replica of Ogden Morrow's basement, which is Holiday's best friend, which we mentioned earlier.
And it has like video games and movies all over the shelves and stuff. So H and Parzival have been best friends for I don't even know how
5
long.
years.
5 years. And so the first part of the book is basically talking about H, and then they're best friends and they are hanging out in the basement. But then Parzival goes to class, and he goes to class first to Oasis Studies, which I really wish they had that here, but obviously the Oasis doesn't exist yet, so
It's actually world history first, but
oh yeah. But then he goes to Latin, and when he's in Latin, which he takes because James Halliday took Latin, he realizes that the Oasis, not the Oasis, Ludus, the school, the planet of the school, is Latin for school or game. So he pulls out Anorak's Almanac and he reads it, and he reads the first quote again, and he realizes and has this idea that maybe the copper key is somewhere on Ludus, but he rereads the first clue that they give him, because within this first quote they have little notches on a few letters, and when you put all the letters together in order, it comes up with a...
It's not in the quote.
No?
It's on every page of the almanac.
Oh, yeah.
When he prints it out, there's little notches on certain letters, and it spells out what you seek lies, or
Copper key awaits explorers in a tomb filled with horrors.
yeah, I was thinking of something else. But yeah,
Ignore that.
yeah, ignore everything.
Till
that we
next
say.
episode.
Well, technically we should be talking about it in this episode because it's part 1. Okay.
But that's when he finds it, and so then he prints out. He doesn't print out. He pulls up the Tomb of Horrors mod, which is a mod for Dungeons and Dragons, and he puts the map of it on top of the map for Ludus, and then he finds it. He finds like a match.
He uses a database search for, or like the topography of Ludus, and looks for, well, if you look at the front page of the mod of Tomb of Horrors, there's a skull made out of rocks, and so he looks for that on Ludus, and eventually he finds it.
And so then he's freaking the fuck out, and so then as soon as class is over, he makes his way and he finds the Tomb of Horrors. And so when he goes there, he walks in and he has the Tomb of Horrors, like he's played it already, so he knows everything, and he knows where to go to avoid traps, because he's only a level 3, so he can't really win against anything. So he goes and he avoids any monsters and anything. He picks up like swords and cool things, and he gets a lot of money, and then he finally meets,
What's his name?
I can't pronounce it, Asrak?
Asrak, the necromancer, right?
Demi.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing.
And when he meets him, Asrak challenges him to a game of Joust, which is a very difficult video game, but Parsifal's really good at it.
It's awful.
It's an arcade game. It's also for the Atari, and Parsifal plays a few times with him as practice, and then sucks. But then he tells Asrak, "Can you switch? Because I'm really used to playing on my left."
Because he used to play with H in the basement, and H would play on the right, and Parzival would play on the left.
So when he switches, that's when he gets better, and that's when he like gets in the zone, and he really beats Asrak, and then Asrak gives him the copper key. And so, not mentioned before, but now we're mentioning it. As soon as he exits the Tomb of Horrors, he runs into a female Gunter named Artemis,
who he's had a cyber crush on for years, because she's a very famous Gunter, and she kicks ass, basically.
Yeah, and she's had a blog of her own opinions and of her own reviews, and that's kind of what our channel is based off of. But a lot of Gunters have that. And so he runs into her, and she reveals that she's actually known about the Tomb of Horrors for like 3 weeks. And so when he finds that out, she can't beat it. Stop laughing.
Sorry.
She just reveals him that she can't beat it, and it's been so hard, and she's not good at joust. And he lies and is like, "Yeah, I'm not good either," even though he has copper key.
Yeah, he beat it on the first try,
Yeah.
and she's been trying for 3 weeks.
She lies, and it's actually been 5 weeks. But so then, as they're talking and they're getting along, she checks the scoreboard, which Holiday has in place to just show who's first in finding the egg. And
The only initials that have been on the scoreboard, it's like an old-fashioned high scoreboard that you would see on an arcade game. The only initials are James Donovan Halliday.
And so when she checks it now, the first name up there is Parsifal, and so then it has a little key next to it, and she's like, literally, what the fuck? Because he got the key on the first try. So she places a spell on him which makes him stay there where he's standing.
She places a wall in front of him.
Yeah.
It lasts 15 minutes because she's really good with magic.
And so then she goes to go find the copper key, and Parsifal's like, "What makes you think you're gonna win right now if you haven't won for the past 5 weeks?" And she's like, "Competition moves down the best of me." And then when the wall goes down, he goes on and he reads the copper key clue to find the first gate, and he goes to go find the first gate, and he beats that too, all in the same 24 hours of the day with no sleep at all.
And then he slept for 12 hours and
Yeah.
missed school the next day. So
But then when he wakes up, he finds out that
Artemis has also gotten the key and passed the gate. So
now they're tied, and she's only 1,000 points behind him, which is extremely close. And so then everywhere all over the world, people explode and think that he's number one.
yeah,
That
and
they're
they're
working
actually
together.
working together. Yeah,
Even though they're not.
no, because both Wade Parzival and H have vowed to stay solo throughout the entire game. And then actually third place becomes H right after he finds out that Wade got the key and the.
Because he just puts things together
Yeah, because
somehow.
they both go to school in Ludus, and Wade never travels out of Ludus because it costs a lot of money.
So he
And
figured
doesn't
the
have
one
money
place
to.
is
Okay,
all-
so after you're done with that, I'll take one too.
So the chief executive of Iowa Industries,
Of the Uology Department, not of
Uology Department.
Iowa.
Uology Department, is Nolan Sorrento, who is a very big douche. After Parzival finds the first key and the first gate, Sorrento sends Parzival the same email every minute, and
For how many days? 4 days? 4 days. Which is like over 5,000 emails.
so when Parzival feels like, okay, I'll read it, and he reads it, and it's basically the IOI and the Sixers telling him, come join our group. And so then he feels like, okay, I'll just go to their chat room and tell them to fuck off. And so he goes there thinking that's what he's gonna do. And Sorrento tells him, first, let me give you a tour. This is what we have, this is what could be yours. And it's like the most expensive haptic suits, visors, and everything. He'll get $5,000 like up front, and he'll get
It's actually a $1 million a year and then a $5 million bonus when he finds the egg.
and it's an office with a window, which is great. And so then Parzival, being the sarcastic smartass that he is, says, I'll do it if you give me your job. So if your bosses are willing to fire you, I'll do it, and if I take your job. And then he was like, they're recording us, aren't they? And Sorrento was like, of course they are, and they just told me that they can agree with your offer. Can you start immediately? And then Parzival, being the smartass that he is, again, says, like, after a few seconds, I decide no. And then he starts to walk away.
And then, actually, we didn't mention this before, but when you join the Oasis, you don't have to put in your real name or your identity or anything. That's only when you're in Ludus for school. And no one has access to that information except for the principal of your school and also GSS.
And the Sixers bribed the school principal to give them Wade's information and H's, but H lied.
Yeah.
And so they don't know who H is. But
Because he's smart.
they know who Parzival is, where he lives, and everything, which is bad.
And they're actually staring at where he lives right now. Oh, we didn't mention, Wade has a hideout
Oh my god.
where he leaves his Oasis console and all of his important things.
So he sneaks out of the laundry room of his trailer home and goes way down to the bottom, and then goes through all these different mazes, and then there's this big van that he hollowed out,
Under a giant stack of cars.
and that's his hideout that he goes to every day. And so then when he found the first gate and the key, he fell asleep there, and when Sorrento is like, I know where we live, and they show him a picture, they still think he's at home, which he's not. And so then they're like, okay, here's our last offer, which you should really take. We're gonna give you $5 million right now if you just give us
the location of the key and the gate.
And just
A
give us a
walkthrough,
walkthrough
yeah.
of how you got the key, and that's it, and we'll leave you alone. And so then Parzival says no, he's about to walk out, and Sorrento tells him to sit down and calls him by his real name, and they tell him that they know his information, and then they say that if he doesn't do that, or if he logs out of the chat room, they're gonna bomb his
Stack.
yeah, because
They're evil.
it won't make a difference, and if it explodes, they're just gonna think it's a meth lab experiment gone wrong, or a stack fell down, or something.
Which
And-
happens all the time.
Yeah, so Parzival gets scared and he logs out, and he doesn't think anything's gonna happen, and he takes his visor off, and then he waits, and then he hears the explosion, and his aunt's boyfriend die, and so do other people, but he doesn't really care about them except for an old lady who's always been nice to him. But he's alive, and that's what's important. And he quickly goes and tells H and Artemis and these two Japanese top players, because the order goes Parzival, Artemis, H, Daido, and Shoto, and they all meet in the basement.
Daido and Shoto are brothers, and they work together, but they're not technically a clan. But,
Their group name is Daisho, and they all meet in the basement, and Parzival tells them what happens, and they all don't really get along, and Daisho log out, and H and Parzival kind of yell at each other, and Artemis logs out, and after that, Parzival agrees to these certain offers that all these people are giving him for money, as long as they meet the criteria of him not releasing his real name, real information, and everything is done through the Oasis. So when he does that, he gets all of this money, and
which is obviously real money,
Yeah.
technically, even though it's Oasis credits.
and he goes to like back alley server to create a new identity and new social security number, new everything. So he copies his fingerprints, his retinal scans over to this fake identity. So that if anything happens, then he will just switch his prints over to Wade, which who he is. And so then he used his fake identity to go buy an apartment far away from where he is that is not under IOI server control.
But he ends up getting an apartment in Columbus, Ohio, which is where GSS is based in, so it has the strongest server. And also there's very little blackouts in that area, because if there was, then Oasis wouldn't work,
And so
which is a problem.
he just gets that apartment, and he vows to never leave it until he finds the egg. And then that's the end.
That is the
Yeah,
end
That's
of part
the
one.
end of our video. It was more of a synopsis than a review, but talked a little bit about reviewing. But so for next time, it's gonna be the review of part 2, and time after that it's gonna be part 1 and a part 3.
And we're going back to part 1 just to redo it again, because this is obviously terrible.
But yeah, so part 2, part 3, and then it will be reviews of 80s movies, video games.
We'll actually play video games and
Yeah,
allow you
you
to
can watch
see them.
us.
We'll probably curse a lot. Obviously, if you're a child, maybe you shouldn't be watching this. Also, we'll
We're
put
not
this.
good.
Yeah, we're very bad at everything that we
Joust.
do. I fucking hate joust.
I like Joust.
Pac-Man
but
is important and
Just
evil.
remember that. But yeah, you should really read Ready Player One if you haven't already. I mean, the fandom isn't big yet, but the movie's gonna come out eventually. It's being directed by Steven Spielberg. We don't feel too good about that.
We have mixed
but
feelings.
Yeah, and we're hoping that when the movie comes out, more people will be searching things about Ready Player One. Hopefully, we'll come up in the search, and
Watch our videos.
yeah. So again, I'm Artemisi,
And I'm Mage.
and we'll see you next time.
Bye.